hiding in the shadows of the moon. Yet I will not be their prey any longer, but their hunter.
If you're the kind of player who finds a game over screen more motivating than the level up notification, well, you're in the right place. So in today's video, here are 10 brutal Gothic Metroidvanias that will break you in the best way possible. Let's begin. Blasphemous 2019. When I first stepped into the cursed land of Custodia, I wasn't prepared for how much I would like this game. Blasphemous is a masterpiece. You play as the Penitent One, a silent protagonist wearing a helmet called the Capirote. This was the first time when I saw a very specific kind of Spanish Gothic horror in a game. Every swing of the mea culpa sword feels like it's carving through bone and flesh. When you guys encounter one of the larger enemies, the sound of their impact alone will make you wince. Now, time for something unique. Blasphemous has a guild system. When you die, a fragment of your guild stays behind, lowering your mana and reducing your experience gain until you retrieve it. There were times, especially in the Mother of Mothers area, where I felt so bad because of my own failures that I almost gave up. But it's the bosses that really broke me. Fighting Our Lady of the Shard Visage is like a test of your sanity. Salt and Sanctuary 2016. I assumed this was just a poor man's Dark Souls, or maybe a Flash game knockoff. Man, I was so wrong. Within a few minutes, I was getting my butt kicked in by a monster. Everything is hand-drawn in a scratchy style that makes everything feel like it's rotting from the inside out. We're playing as a shipwrecked sailor on an island that is also like a rehab for dead civilizations? How convenient. The salt mechanic, where you lose your leveling currency upon death, is standard, and the bosses here are insane. Have you ever fought the Witch of the Lake? I actually had to step away from my PC and calm down because her projectile spam felt like an insult to my reflexes. Don't even get me started on the platforming. One miss jumped into a pit of spikes and there goes 30,000 salt. It's painful, and yet the satisfaction of finally conquering the nameless god is unmatched. Vigil, The Longest Night 2020. Check out this hidden gem. It takes a lot of inspiration from Salt and Sanctuary, along with Eastern folklore and Lovecraftian horror. We are Layla, a member of the Vigil, who returns to her village to find it, well, not doing great. But hey, great weapon variety. You can swap between bows, hammers, swords, and daggers on the go. Each has its own dedicated skill tree. I found the daggers to be the most human way to play because they're fast, and the hammer is great for when you want to turn a monster into a pancake. And I must mention, Vigil has some really weird quests. If you don't talk to the right person at the right time, you can miss out on big chunks of story or collectible items. Death's Gambit Afterlife 2021. The original Death's Gambit was okay, but the Afterlife update turned it into one of the best 2D Souls-likes ever made. A soldier named Soren makes a deal with death itself to find his mom. It's a surprisingly emotional story, which is rare for this genre. Once you beat a boss, you can go back and fight a new version of them. They have completely new movesets and are designed to be almost impossible. Almost. Honorable mention, kudos to the voice acting. The Last Faith 2023. If you've ever looked at Bloodborne and thought, I wish I could play this on a Game Boy Color, then The Last Faith is your dream come true. It is so Victorian Gothic. Trench coats, giant cleavers, flintlock pistols, you got it all. I know you'll expect a standard pixel art game over here, but let me warn you, managing your burn and frost meters is hard. When you get an enemy's health low enough, you can perform a brutal finisher. What a great way to take out your frustration after dying to a pack of dogs for the 5th time. P.S. The map is huge. Moon Scars 2022. Moon Scars is what happens when you decide that dark isn't dark enough. It uses a palette of gray, black, and red. Once your eyes are adjusted to the color, you'll see that it's one of the most beautiful games out there. We play as a Grey Irma, a clay-born warrior who is a sentient doll made of mud. She's looking for her creator, and the plot is told in poetic snippets, and I'm still trying to piece together. Now, as you kill enemies, the atmosphere gets harder. The moon turns red, enemies deal more damage, but you get better rewards. Also, every time you want to upgrade your character, you have to fight a clone of yourself. Yes, the game forces you to kill yourself to level up. Talk about an identity crisis. Castlevania, Order of Ecclesia, 2008. I couldn't make a list of Gothic Metroidvanias without including the series that helped invent the genre. Order of Ecclesia is the black sheep of the DS-era Castlevanias because it is significantly harder than its predecessors. Now, the Order of Ecclesia is all about Shanoa, a woman who has lost her emotions and her memory in order to master glyphs, which are magical symbols that allow her to manifest weapons. If you don't use the right glyph for the right enemy, you're going to have a bad time. I had to learn how to swap glyphs on the go. It felt more like a tactical action game than a traditional platformer. The world is also broken up into smaller, more linear areas before opening up into Dracula's castle. And some of those early levels are surprisingly mean. There's a prison level where the enemies can petrify you, and if you get hit while turned to stone, it's usually an instant death. Elderand 2023. Elderand is a game that feels like it was built by people who grew up playing Castlevania and reading Lovecraft under their covers with a flashlight. It's got a vibrant, almost neon Gothic art style that makes it different from the other games on this list. But don't let the colors fool you, this game is crazy. You play as a mercenary who gets washed up in a land filled with eldritch cults and giant eyeballs. What a plot, right? You're constantly finding new loot, and the difference between a common sword and an epic axe is massive. The bosses in Elderand are huge, and I mean huge, because they end up taking half the screen. There was one boss in the Temple of the Slaves that took me a solid 2 hours to beat. Bonus, there's a lot of gore. Grime 2021. The protagonist has a black hole for a head. Yeah, I'm not kidding. That alone told me I was in for something weird. The universe here is made of stone, teeth, and living tissue. Needless to say, it's uncomfortable to look at. Instead of dodging, you have to parry enemies at the exact moment of impact to suck them into your head hole. This is how you gain traits and how you heal. This means you can't play defensively. I struggled with this for hours, and my instinct was to run away, but in Grime, running away is a death sentence. Grime makes you feel small, not because the bosses are big, but because the world itself is like a giant organism. Last but not least, Unworthy at 2018. Oh, what a minimalist masterpiece. It's entirely in grayscale, with a quick caveat, you cannot jump. In a 2D action game, not being able to jump is like having your legs tied together. You can't jump over a boss's sweep attack. It gets so annoying sometimes. I'm telling you, if you get cornered by 2 skeletons, you're basically dead. Overall, it's a tight game with very little fluff. But I have one complaint though, it is lonely. There's no music for most of the time, only the sound of your own footsteps and the clanking of your armor. It might be okay for some gamers, but I do love my musical score on video games, as it allows me to get in the zone, and I just can't focus quite without it. And there you have it, folks. 10 brutal Gothic Metroidvanias that will break you in a good way. If I were you, I'd go and play all 10 games one by one. Which game is your favorite? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below.